You were born somewhere on a military base, somewhere in the world. Your mother and father are dogs who once served their country with outstanding success. Their duties were usually things like tracking illegal substances, search and rescue missions, patrol work, and military operations. After serving successfully in their youth, your aging family retired, and in a controlled way, you were born. In other words, you were literally born to serve. You came into the world both blind and deaf. You are completely dependent on your mother. You spend your days snuggled up with your siblings, nursing and sleeping. When you are about 10 days old, your eyes and ears begin to open. You also start using your legs. By crawling and trying to stand up, you're strengthening them. One day you feel so sick that you can't even get up. You're burning up. You've fallen ill and reloading. Before you got sick, you had already received all your vaccinations. You were perfectly healthy and strong. You spent your days playing with your siblings, dashing around everywhere. You were constantly competing with them and beating them at everything mattered to you. Now you're 2 months old. Your training has begun. You took your first tests on things like sound, stress, and adaptation. You passed all of them with flying colors and ranked first among your siblings. From the 4th month on, your interaction with the outside world started to be measured. You were tested on how you behaved around strangers, vehicles, crowds, and different types of ground. In every task, you adapted to the environment and followed commands successfully. Every time you obeyed, they rewarded and praised you. You were the best. By the time you turned 1, your life had completely changed. You met your handler. You had to become one with him, to trust his commands without question. The moment you first saw him, you knew you could trust him. Because he never misled you, your trust in him became absolute. After another year of intense training, you reached a year and a half. Physically, you had grown very strong, about 1 meter tall at the shoulder, 30 kilos in weight, muscular and fit. You could run at nearly 50 kilometers per hour. You could handle any kind of mission. You were now truly ready for real assignments. The big day had come. You were going on your first mission. You ran to the vehicle in excitement. You disembarked silently with the special operations team. At the front, it was you, wearing your ballistic vest, with your steel-hard gaze. Slow but sure steps carried you to the target area to scout the surroundings. Your ears were up, tail stiff, sniffing the air. You caught the scent of danger. You suddenly stopped and started barking. The soldiers around you understood exactly what you meant. They took position to defuse the bomb with the detonator. And right at that moment, all hell broke loose. One of the flying fragments struck you. Reloading. This time, as soon as you detected the bomb, you took up a safer position. After the special team safely defused it, they rewarded you and praised you. After a long, exhausting day, you were just drifting off to sleep. But suddenly, your handler burst into the room and began getting you ready. Duty doesn't wait. The people who planted the bomb had been found. Without your help, success was impossible. You got out of the vehicles for a new operation. The enemy spotted you and opened fire. Bullets whizzed past in front of you. You didn't know what to do. You were stunned. You immediately bolted toward the vehicle. Your handler was calling you, but you couldn't go back. You stayed in the vehicle until the firefight ended. After the clash, the team returned to the vehicle. A soldier came up to you and said, "Courage isn't about not being afraid, Spiros. It's about going back, even when you are." You returned to base and slept. With the first light of morning, a new team had arrived. It was the first time you had seen those uniforms, and they were taking you with them. Let's pause here for a moment. Tell us in the comments which animal's life story you'd like to hear in the next video. We'll choose the topic of the next video based on your suggestions. Now, let's get back to our story. You woke up inside a small cage. You had come here for the first time. Around you were collapsed houses, human mannequins, abandoned cars. You saw someone in strange fluorescent clothing. He smiled at you and introduced himself. He was now your new handler. He explained why you had been brought here and what your new duties would be. You could be even more successful here. Your training began immediately. You had to get used to your new handler. Several months passed in training. You thought that day would be just like the others. More practice, more drills. But suddenly, sirens wailed and people started rushing around. Your handler and the other personnel grabbed you and ran toward the vehicles. The journey began. You understood you were heading to a real mission. You arrived at the scene. Everything was destroyed and covered in dust and smoke. Screams were coming from everywhere. Your handler took you to the edge of some rubble. There were voices coming from inside. After sniffing one of the pieces, you plunged into the debris. You raced toward the scent of a small child. You quickly located the child and dragged them out of the wreckage. You did it. But the work wasn't over yet. They immediately had you sniff a new item. You caught the scent and dove back into the rubble. The smell was stronger now, but you couldn't reach it. Everything had collapsed and your path was blocked. You came back out and barked to signal the situation and the woman's location. After a while, with the proper equipment, the team rescued her. She was the little girl's mother. Now you were heading to a different building. Every moment mattered. You were racing against time. Your handler quickly let you sniff a new item. As soon as you caught the scent, you plunged into the wreckage again. You were just about to reach the injured person when everything started shaking once more. The surroundings went dark. You couldn't see anything. A broken piece fell directly on top of you. It hurt terribly. You tried to move, but you couldn't. You were trapped. You tried to bark to signal what had happened, but no one could hear you. After a while, your eyes closed. Loading. They saved you at the very last moment from where you were trapped. You opened your eyes in a clinic. Strange fluids were attached to your leg. There were sounds you had never heard before. Beep, beep. After a while, your handler came in. His face was sad, but he was smiling. He hugged you and said, "Well done, kid." Then he hugged you again as if saying goodbye and left. You wanted to follow him, but you couldn't stand up. You couldn't feel your legs. You cried. Then another man came and placed you on a car seat. You didn't know where you were going, so you just helplessly watched the road. You arrived at a house with a huge garden. Inside, there were many dog friends. But since you couldn't feel your legs, you only watched them play, and you cried. The veterinarian was taking special care of you. Every day you swam in a pool. You were given massages. Electrical therapy was applied to your body. Slowly, you started to move your legs. You couldn't stand yet, but day by day, you were getting stronger. One day, a family came to see you. You recognized them right away. It was the family whose lives you had saved. The little girl you'd pulled from the rubble ran over and hugged you tightly. They slipped a colorful collar around your neck and carried you to their car. The journey began. After driving together for a while, you arrived at your new home. It was a detached house with a beautiful garden. They carried you to your new kennel. As the days passed, your legs healed too. Your days were spent playing with your new family, going on walks, enjoying life. You were happier than you had ever been before. You spent several happy years here, and now you were 10 years old. One day, someone who had just moved into the house next door caught your attention. In their garden, there was a little chihuahua, a dog that looked like you in some ways, and not at all in others. You immediately ran over and started sniffing. You circled around, wagging your tail, clearly showing your interest. Your heart was fluttering. You began to feel things you'd never felt before. You followed the chihuahua as she walked with her owner. You lived in the same neighborhood. You started visiting her house often just to see her. An emotional bond formed between you. From time to time, you even had little adventures together. You were happily walking together. You were about to cross the street. The chihuahua suddenly dashed onto the road to grab a toy she'd spotted there. You barked after her to stop her, but she had gone too far. You immediately jumped in after her. Without a second thought, you pushed her to the side of the road to save the one you loved. The last thing you saw were the headlights of a car. Reloading. Not this time. You lived a good life. One full of adventures, missions, operations. At 10 years old, you closed your eyes to the world. And that's the end. Don't forget to tell us which animal you'd like the next video to be about. Thanks for watching.